Okay, this video lesson is on keyboard shortcuts. That's basically keystrokes that you hit on your computer to facilitate processes instead of having to go to the menu or to the toolbar to produce them. Okay, so I'm going to go over some of the ones that I think are very, very useful, very important. And I'm going to stick to the Mac version just because I'm working on a Mac. But know that you can access the actual keyboard shortcuts under this video. These two documents, which are a list of the shortcuts, are available to you, okay? So you can go and check them out, and that way you can either use the Windows version or the Mac version, okay? I'm going to go ahead and close out of the Windows one. All right, the first one is the F1. I'm going to go into Illustrator, and if I hit the F1 key, what it actually does is it'll launch you into Adobe Help, and you can go in there and start asking questions. That's this menu here. This is where you can just start typing in questions. If ever you're stuck, if something doesn't make sense or you want to look ahead, you could always look at the help menu. Okay, there's incredible tutorials online and other resources for you to look at that are written. Okay, just in case you want to know what something does and I didn't go over it, maybe it's a more in-depth tool, you can go into the help menu. Okay, so that's F1. All right. Next, we're going to do deleting, saving, and undoing, and copying. We're going to do all of these right here. Okay, so I'm going to go and click on this one here. I'm going to go ahead and shrink my window so that I can see the keyboards that I'm going to do, the keyboard shortcuts that I'm going to do. So to delete an item, just in case I forget to tell you, if you have an item drawn, some of these keyboard shortcuts may not make sense because you haven't learned how to do some of this stuff here, but you're eventually going to learn all this stuff. But you would just select the item, and then on your keyboard you would hit the key delete. And now to save a document, instead of going to File and hitting Save, you could just do a Command S, and that'll give you the option to save. It'll pull up this window. Okay? To undo something, say that you draw something and you move it and you want to undo it and put it back where it was, you do Command Z. If you want to copy something, Command C, and then Command V to paste it, and it copied that exact one. To undo something, we already said is Command Z, but to redo something, you would do, say that I undo that and I want to redo it and put it back where it's at. I do Command Shift Z, and it'll put it back where I had it, okay? So Command Z to undo, Command Shift Z to redo. To zoom into something, we're going to do the Command key and then the plus sign. You can just doing it multiple times, it'll keep zooming you in, and the minus sign to zoom out. Now going into some of these other hand commands that I find useful, I've highlighted the ones that I find particularly useful, but you can take a look at all of them. To toggle between tools, you would use some of these. So some of the useful tools are the selection tool, which is the one that we're currently on here. To go to the A, that would be the direct selection tool. If you hold down P, that'll give you your pen tool. Those are some of your commonly used tools. When you double click on tools to bring up options, like this, double clicking on them will bring up options for each of the tools. All right, I think that's helpful. Then holding down Shift to constrain movement. So say that I want to move this straight up and down. If I hold down Shift, it'll bring it down straight or up straight. For the most part, you'd have to wiggle it a lot to not have that happen. To move it to rotate it, I could also rotate it in 45 degree by holding down Shift or full 90. Okay. If you option click on these tools, normally you'd have to hold down and you can see what's in here. If you didn't want to just go through and look at all of those, if you hold down option and click, it'll cycle through. You'll notice that they're changing. It's going through the list of keys there. To make a copy while dragging, you would want to do option, hold down option, and drag, and it made a copy. To add to a selection, as I'm selecting items, I could click and on one of them and then hold down Shift and click on another one and say that I want this one over here. I can hold down Shift and click on that one, and then I just have these three items selected. Okay. To move a selection, say that I have this selected, I could actually use my arrow keys. That's this one here. I could use my arrow keys to move things up or to move things around and down, okay? If I hold down Shift, I say this is one movement without the Shift key. If I hold down Shift, it jumps it 10 points. Okay, so if you want to move faster, you can hold down shift and it'll go in 10-point increments. Now to constrain proportion, say that I'm resizing this and I don't want it to change the proportion, like I don't want it to become longer and skewed or skinny or anything like that. If I want to constrain the proportions, all I would have to do is hold down shift, hold down and drag as I'm making it bigger, or shift, hold down and drag as I'm making it smaller, and that'll constrain my proportions. If I want to add and subtract points to spiral segments or to add points on a star, I'm going to go ahead and draw a star. Okay. As I'm dragging it out, if I did my arrow key up or my arrow key down, it would decrease or increase the number of sides. The same would be if I were using my spiral. As I'm dragging out a spiral, if I were to do my arrow key, I could add more spirals or remove the number of spirals. Now, a lot of times you may be drawing a shape and you may run out of space and you may want to move it. As long as you're not on the type tool, if you hold down the space bar, you can move this page around. So it gives you this hand tool, which is the same as this hand tool over here. Okay. And then the last one I want to show you is a pattern. Say that you have something filled with pattern and you want to shear it. That's this one here. I kind of skipped over it. To shear it, you would grab your shear tool. And again, we're going to go over all of these tools eventually, but I'm just showing you the shortcuts so you understand some of the meaningful ones. If you hold down the tilde sign is that little swiggly sign. It's this little sign right here. If you hold that down as you shear, it's only actually shearing the pattern inside and not the actual container that it's applied to. Okay? If you don't do that and you just shear, you're actually only going to shear the shape and not the pattern inside. So if you're just trying to affect the pattern inside of something, that's what you would need to do, is hold down that tilde key as you shear. Okay? This concludes your lesson on keyboard shortcuts. Please keep in mind that underneath this video there's the full set. They're not required. You're not going to be tested on them, but they do help your workflow. So if you're interested in them, you can check them out. Remember, there's one set for Mac and there's one set for PC. Good luck. If you have any questions, I led at hawaii.edu or 808-343-9565.